So welcome back, everybody, to the Level Up Podcast, where you learn how to go from agent to entrepreneur. I've got a super awesome, very special guest with me today. Unfortunately, Greg is not able to join us. He is out in some very important meetings, and so we are recording behind the scenes here with my friend Kurt Francis, who some of you in the Century 21 community might know. We'll get to that in a second. But Kurt is amazing speaker, and I've had him on my other podcast, Real Estate Uncensored, but it's been a while since we touched base and had him on a podcast publicly. And he's got some interesting things that he's been working on that I wanted him to bring to you folks in the audience. That's going to help you upgrade your relationships, because one of the key things that I think we tend to overlook as we go from agent to entrepreneur is the importance of the people that we surround ourselves with. Hiring a coach is not enough. The other relationships that we surround ourselves with make a huge difference in what we end up being and who we are, 2 years and 5 years down the road. And so we're going to talk about how to very strategically and intentionally upgrade those relationships so that we get to where we want to be. So with that being said, Kurt Francis, Kurt, officially welcome.
Matt, how's it? Just good to be with you again.
Yes, we're super excited, and we're going to have an awesome conversation. For the people that don't know who you are, just fill them in quickly, because you spoke at a big Century 21 event not that long ago. I'm curious, remind me of which event that was, and kind of tell people a little bit about what you do, what you spend your days doing in coaching.
So awesome, Matt. So Matt, I've spoken at Century 21, worldwide global conferences for actually many, many years. The last one was the 121, which is in Orlando, and we've got the leadership one coming up pretty soon in Miami. For many, many years I've done that. There was a brief time that I didn't because I was affiliated to another brokerage, but basically being with Century 21 most of my career, over 15 years. So, basically that's it. What I'm doing, what I'm really focusing on is really to invigorate people's transformation in every way possible that I can. And because a lot of people, we get into real estate and we've got no selling skills, no business understanding of how to run a business. So it's more than just, really helping an agent, but it's helping people to think like a business person. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in. So that's what I'm focusing on and coaching. And I've created two online courses that's really, really helping people. We've been running since last year. It's really been phenomenal. It's from, really to help brokers and managers and owners take their business to another level, as well as, my Epoch Challenge, which is a program really to help you take your life to another level. Because you see, let me put it this way, our businesses will only grow to the extent we grow as people.
Yeah, right? 100% true.
And if we're not growing as a person individually and our personal life, our business will not grow. No matter what coaching you have, no matter what's around you, you can be the best company, be in the best office, but we need to grow our lives personally.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit about me. That's what I do.
And you came across a really interesting and very startling statistic here a while back, and that we were talking about this on the phone here a couple of weeks ago. So why don't you share a little bit with the people that are listening how you came across that and what that statistic is that kind of sent you down the path of talking more about relationships versus some of the other options that we have for personal growth.
Sure, absolutely. So Matt, what actually happened that I was doing this online course, right? I actually sold the course before I wrote it. But I know what was inside me, and I said, this is what's going to happen, and blah blah blah. So when you sell a course and people are paying a fair amount of money to be on it, you've got to produce, right? Yeah. And in fact, if someone pays a little bit for a course, they only invested a little bit, and so is the presenter. When somebody pays a lot more for a course, they more invested, and so am I. So that's why I don't mind charging a little bit higher for different things because it means they're more invested and so am I. So I raise my standard. So what happened on this course, I was writing it as we were going. I mean, I was up to 1, 2 o'clock every single night because I wanted this to be really good. And in the working late, guess what? I started finding, because I was researching, and I started reading them up from different people, different perspectives. And the one guy was a Harvard professor, Dr. David McClellan, and phenomenal stuff where he focused on more than 30 years, and it was about relationships and how relationships really affect us. And what he said is that 95% of our success or 95% of our failure has got to do with the people we associate with the people we hang out with. And when I first read that, I said, oh, this is crazy. How can it be 95%? But the more I read and researched and started learning about it and looking at my own life and looking at all the friends I've got and co-workers and that. This is so true. 95% of our failure. You see, we blame failure on ourselves. Oh, I don't have the right makeup, or I didn't go to the right schools, or I don't have the right, whatever. And we push ourselves down even for failure. But our failure often is not just because of us. It's because of the people we hang out with. And my successes, if I look at all the successes that I've had, Matt, it all comes down to the people I hung out with.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, there's one guy that I came across, here a couple years ago, and Hank Avink. And the reason why I bring him up is that there was something significant that he said that hit me really hard. This was about a year ago, and he's just shared with me when he first connected with who he considers now his best friend. They got into the industry at the same time, and he made an effort to very specifically and intentionally connect with this one person, because he realized that he wanted to be connected with someone that was as driven as he was, and wanted to work, wanted to put in the hard work, the extra hours, that wanted to role play together, all those things that agents are told to do when they first get into business. But for the most part, they get in with a bunch of other people that aren't willing to do it. He went and sought out the person who was willing to put in the work, who had the same energy and same drive as he did, and he made sure that he and that person connected. Well, it turns out that person has been his best friend of the last 15 years. And he just shared with me that he's part of the lesson that he learned about that is that to always be very specific and intentional about the relationships that we have, especially the handful of very, very close relationships, the people that we spend the most time with, because it's impossible to overestimate how much they rub off and affect us. And that's exactly what you're talking about. It's just those few key people. And I think in the journey from agent to entrepreneur, one of the things we overlook is the idea that, look, if we're surrounding ourselves with people that are at our level, there's a certain amount of iron sharpens iron that can take place. Absolutely. We can keep each other's game sharp. But if we want to jump up a level, one of the best things we can do for ourselves is intentionally seek out the people that are 1 or 5 levels above us and start hanging out with them. So I think that's what we're going to kind of get into. So, so let's dive in a little bit to, like, how do you start to seek out and what do you look for in the types of relationships that you want to target and kind of bring into your life if they're not already kind of if you're not already in their orbit, let's put it that way.
Sure. Matt, that's such a great question, because, but let me first just give you the background of this, is that, what happened on this course I was writing, and I said, next week, I'm going to give you 6 steps of how to upgrade your relationships. And I didn't know what 6 steps they were. I had to go and really find them, because I was literally taking what Dr. David McClellan said, and I said, okay, so how do I practically, help people and also help myself? Because, the more I was teaching about it, the more I was learning, about myself in my own life. So I, of course, had to do what I was teaching, right? So I said, okay, next week we're going to be talking about relationships, and we're going to talk about, I'm going to give you 6 steps of how to upgrade your relationships. And I said, what the heck? Why did I say that? And anyway, so that was one of the best things, Matt, that changed my life. Yeah. Because that same day, I started researching and reading and studying, and I looked for the very best people, and I went back to Dr. David McClellan. And so the first thing I say about that is, how do you do it? Number one, decide on who you want to be. Decide on who you want to be. That's the first thing. Decide on who you want to be. Because if we don't know that, we don't know for the kind of people that we really need to look at. So, you can say, decide on who you want to become. Who you want to become. And that was a major thing, because I in my own personal life started digging down and said, Kurt, who do you really want to become now? And it changed everything in my life. I had a massive transformation. This is the end of last year, about September, October last year. And I started to think about that, and then, of course, teach on. So who do we want to become? Number one. That's the very first thing. And we've got to spend time on this. It's not a quick little thing, because often we just write goals. And I tell you, Matt, the one thing I learned from this is that often we can go to great seminars and conferences, and people teach people, okay, you've got to write goals. You've got to write goals, and just write them. And I think a lot of our teaching on writing these goals of who we want to become, we've actually caused a lot of harm, because people just write things down. And the problem is with who we want to become is that we will only become to the level of our self-image. We will only become to the level of our self-image. So often people will only set goals to the level of their self-image. And so their goals can't always be realistic, or they can't always go where they need to go, because it's limited by the ceiling of their self-image. And when we're talking about this, we need to start looking at our self-image. How, an image is the way we visualize ourselves, is the way we see ourselves. And so that's the first thing. Same thing as self-esteem. Self-esteem is the way we feel about ourselves. And self-belief is the confidence we have in ourselves. So it's visual, it's belief, and really about the feeling. So that's a big thing. The second thing, Matt, what I love to talk about with this is that we need to, once we know what we want to become, we need to identify 3 others who are already like that. Identify 3 people who are already like that and who've already accomplished that. Okay, which I call my 3 epoch epitomes. My 3 epoch epitomes. Okay, and it's basically the ideal person, and we've got to decide that, and that can take some time. Some people may know that straight away, but you might say, well, listen, I've been using the people straight away, and they haven't worked for me. So who are the people that I can identify? This is only identifying them. You're only identifying at least 3 people. Identify. It could be research. It could be, asking. It could be getting on the internet. It could be Googling. It could be YouTube. It could be Facebook. It could be LinkedIn. Whatever. Identify these people and spend time in it when you identify it. To research it. Like not, okay, that's one. Okay, done. No. Get down and research it. Say, I'm going to spend an hour for, every day this next week, or for 2-3 weeks, until I've identified the people that are exactly like I want to become. Okay, that's the second thing. And then the third thing is we've got to model them. We've got to model them. Okay, and when I say model them, not just copy them, we've got to model them. And to model somebody, the third thing, to model them, we've got to really study them. We've got to study them. We've got to read what they put out there. Go to their Facebook page. Go to their Twitter if you can get hold of that. Go to LinkedIn. Go to their YouTube. Go and study them as much as you can, and Google them until you can't find anything more else about them. If you've got to buy their books, do whatever it takes to really study them. And I really believe when I say study them, Matt, we need to get immersed in it. It needs to be an immersion. We need to be like you're getting in the water, you're getting in a swimming pool. When we go into an ocean in California in January when it's cold, we feel it. We feel it. If you're not feeling it, then you've got to go a little bit deeper, right? And then there's a 2-part to modeling. Okay, first is studying. The second part is practicing them. And I know I'm just talking a little bit about what's there, not so much the hows, but just because of time. But we've got to practice them, and practicing them without losing your unique ability or your uniqueness. And there's a bit of a skill to that, and I'd like to teach a little bit on that as well. But practicing them without losing your uniqueness. So we study them, and then we actually practice them, and actually start saying the things out aloud. Our tongue is the most powerful thing, and when we start, studying them, we might take one of their books they've read, and we might just close the door, walk around in the room, and just read it like they would say it. Because often when you're using your tongue and your body language, we start picking up just their energy and their spirit, but
I can remember doing that
always.
Years ago.
What's that?
I can remember doing that years ago on the musician side. I picked out my 3 or 4 favorite musicians on the instrument that I was learning at the time. And I remember doing that exact thing, like literally mimicking everything. I would change my setup to match theirs. I would do my best to like imitate their body language. And it helped like overcome certain practice limitations, and it put me in the headset of to where I can slip into like kind of imitating 2 or 3 or 4 different people. And that's when you start to like some of your own style, some of your own uniqueness. One of the ways to keep that intact is to not latch so much onto just one person, because then you can kind of lose yourself inside of just modeling one person. If you model 3 or 4, you start to pull the things out from each of them that you like, and then out of that, then your own uniqueness can shine through a little bit. So I want to go back. There was something So practicing them without losing our uniqueness is really good. And there was something I wanted to bring out about that. But how did you put this into practical effect? Because you mentioned this, like this revelation essentially changed your life. When you look at your own relationships after you started learning the material so that you could teach it, and you started looking at your own relationships, was there anyone that you kind of set your sights on and decided, okay, I'm going to study and I'm going to practice and I'm going to model them? Because there's certain people I can look at in my life that I can definitely say that I've done that and come out the other side and then integrated the things that I liked about them into my personality and let go of the things that weren't useful for me. Was there anyone like that for you just in the last year or two?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Matt, and I didn't find it in one day. And
Yeah.
it took 2 or 3 months. And and because of this person, my life has totally changed
Yeah.
because of it's really really interesting.
Hmm.
And it only became powerful once I started to experience it because I studied and researched, okay, this is what needs to happen. What are the 6 steps to upgrade your relationships? And then when I took action and started doing it, and that's when, because I believed it. You see, the first thing is I believed it. I believed that if I
Right.
upgrade my relationship, things are going to change.
Hmm.
And so I didn't question it or let me test this out or no, I took it, researched it, believed what Dr. Dave McClellan had done 30 years of research at Harvard. And I said,
Hmm.
okay, I believe it. I'm not going to question that. What I'm going to do is take the action. And once I did that and found the people, and we'll talk a little bit about that now when I go through the other steps, what really has happened with me.
Yeah.
Um,
Very
so,
cool.
so
And I picked up my train of thought. It reminded me of what Napoleon Hill said. The original concept of the mastermind was
yeah,
Napoleon Hill coming up with his handful of heroes that he wanted to have speak into his life, and he would picture them vividly in his imagination in a conversation with them. Like the original concept for a mastermind wasn't we all get together on a Zoom call and we talk about what's going on in our business and try to help each other. Like it was literally him getting inside the heads of his mentors and his heroes and having imaginary conversations in his head with those people and them helping him and giving him advice. And he would picture, what would this person say? You know, what would that person say
yes,
about this situation? He would get inside their personality, the point where he could have imaginary conversations in his head. That's, if anybody remembers from Think and Grow Rich, that's what the original concept of a mastermind was. It was actually imaginary, and it was getting inside the heads of the people that you look up to and the people that you want to be in their position. So I thought it was interesting that you brought out about study them and then practice them. Essentially, that's what
yes,
Napoleon Hill was doing. He was practicing those
yeah.
heroes, which is pretty awesome. All right, so
Good.
give us the fourth step.
So let's go. Well, so the fourth thing is, okay. So remember we've identified. So I want to say again, the fourth thing is identify and establish 3 relationships with them, because the second one is just identify them, because that is
Yeah.
a process on its own. It's not the same process you actually establish in a relationship. So number 4 is, the ones you've identified, establish a relationship with them. Okay, some of them may have been dead. Okay, they may be gone
Right.
off this planet already.
Yeah.
But you need to establish a relationship with somebody that you're going to model. Okay, and it may only end up as 1 or 2 relationships out of the people you've identified, but you've got to take action to actually establish a relationship with them. And I've done this a couple of times in my life, but it's significantly since last year. I would say from August, September, October. That's when it really started happening in my life.
Mm.
And if possible, physically hang out with them. Now, we can do a Zoom call or whatever. So, maybe, and that can be good if you can't be with them. Maybe they're in another country or another city, whatever. I would
Mm.
suggest consider, flying there, whatever. But identify it and start the process of establishing a relationship. And a relationship is not a one-off meeting. Relationship is, guys like Steve Rogers, whatever. Steve, I've established a relationship years ago with him, and he's been, phenomenal in my life. And there's people like
Yeah.
David Romero, just phenomenal in my life. And these people have influenced me tremendously over years.
Mm.
And I'm still have the relationship, and we still meet. But now it's establishing, identifying some other relationships, which I've done. And so basically that's the thing. Take it to the next level and establish a relationship. And that can
Yeah.
happen in many formats. It can start on Facebook, it can start on LinkedIn, it can start on, whatever. And then, but get to know them, try and get a conversation with them, and take them out to lunch, and you pay. Take them out for coffee and you pay. Take them out, So that's the fourth thing. And relationships cost us, right? Relationships cost us. When I connected with you and I heard about you, from Stephen Moya, and I'm also careful. Like everyone says, oh, you must meet him, whatever. But when I met you, I said, yeah, there's a guy that I could also model myself after. There's a guy that I could also learn from, and that's you. So spending time with people that you can help them and they can help you.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's let's see. One of my clients would call that proximity mentors. So people that are similar to our level, but maybe they have a specialty that they're really, really good at that we can learn from that we don't have in our life yet, or we don't have in our business yet. So there's always those people that are not necessarily like 5 rungs on the ladder above us, but they have something that adds value, huge value to our lives. That's what she would call a proximity mentor. And yeah, I've got some people that are way up higher than me that I love to hang out with, and then I've got people that are more on like in the same path as I am, or we're in similar stages in our journey, but they're better at certain things than I am, and so we hang out with each other and we're able to help each other in the different areas that we're good at. So I love that, and there's always a place for that, absolutely. So established relationships. I would say the thing that made the biggest difference for me in this area is podcasting, because to me podcasting is the ultimate networking tool right now, and I hope it stays that way for forever, whether podcasting as a function of iTunes sticks around or not. But like video interviews and conversations with other influential people, I hope that people value that forever, because for me it's been the key to networking and building the relationships. In fact, I would say probably my 5 closest relationships with business heroes all take place with people around the country that I don't get to hang out with in person very much. We have to go to events or something like that, or I have to fly to them in order to actually physically be around them. The odds of me meeting them just at a random event, if I hadn't done podcasting, is pretty slim. And podcasting exposed me to a lot of different people that I wouldn't have necessarily even known about, that then became mentors and heroes to me. So if anyone, I cannot suggest a better way, even if it's just your own interview series. Like I ran into a guy the other day that does a show called Beers with Max. That's it. He literally invites the people that he wants to talk to a Zoom call with this called Beers with Max. Said just grab a beer, show up to the call. We'll talk for a half hour. It's recorded. My staff will turn that into a very simple podcast. It sends it to iTunes. It's no big deal. It's not a huge thing, but he gets to interview anybody that he would essentially like, that he looks up to. So if anybody, especially if you're a young person, that's how I would get started. That's how I would build my network at this point.
Wow, excellent.
Yeah.
Matt, because you know what really happens? For example, I told you that it took a few months to establish some relationships, and I'm just going to talk about the one person, okay? So the one person I established a relation with, firstly, it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you.
Yeah.
In fact, if it doesn't cost you, I wonder, what it really means to you, right? Now, what price are we prepared to pay for identifying and establishing with the right people? And so that might even come in a form of a coach. You might say, I want to establish a relationship with somebody, but that's going to be in the form of coaching. And and so if you get what you pay for. So if you're looking for a great coach, and the person that I want to establish a relationship with is a great coach, and he's been a Fortune 500 company, the fastest growing company with coaching company in the United States, and one time, and he was doing all the things that I thought, I'm missing that, I'm lacking those skills, that's, if I want to do that, I've got to do that, and I've got to establish a relation with this guy. So it's actually, so it came in the form of coaching. So and this is one of the best things I've ever done, because and that's Alex Jeffries, and I'll talk about him. And we've actually become friends now. But the thing is that I joined that, and then he opened other doors for me. He invited me to a mastermind, where this was in Rancho Santa Fe, and there were 13 people around the table, and when they say, if you're the smartest one in the group, get in your group.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, I was 13.
In the right group.
Yeah, exactly. But I was 13, dude. I was 13. I was like, why did he invite me? I was so intimidated. I was intimidated. Yet some of these guys I'd seen on television, or I've seen on all over the internet, And like I'm sitting in the same around the same table as these guys. And and the
That's awesome.
mastermind was very smartly done. And I said I'll be home by 9 o'clock. No, we had our first bathroom break at 9:30, and we're done well after 11, and I only left there at 10 to 12. But it was, I was exposed to, because of that person, he became a resource. And often when we become like other people, they actually become a resource because they start introducing you to other people in their life that will strengthen you. So then I started meeting his team members, like Carl Emery, just phenomenal. John Hamilton, wow, Ryan, and now Aaron Wang, a phenomenal guy. He lives in Atlanta. And now I'm having all this input in my life that I've just gone to a whole nother level that I couldn't have imagined. I could never have imagined this. I tell you now, it's just amazing. And then
one key relationship.
Yeah, just one. Just one. But it took me 2-3 months to identify. Just to identify took me 2-3 months. Then you got to start the relationship and establish it. And then spend as much as time as you can with them, and then in person, and follow them and learn from them. If they do a live Facebook, get on it, watch it, stop what you're doing. Sometimes we need to interrupt our lives of a rut. We need to interrupt and to follow somewhere, follow the person that we actually, we kind of, we want to model. And then he's introduced me to a lot of other people that's opened doors for me all over. And then then I spoke at Harvard, and then at Harvard I've met so many other people that invited me to other things now, Matt. I got a message 2 days ago. Would you come to to Malaysia? I want you to speak at 3 speaking gigs. And I said, well, next year. He said, no, I want you this year, and I want you to put you on television there. And there's a whole lot of things. Like that would never have happened. None of this, just for one relationship.
Yeah, that's insane. Well, yeah, and that's the key, I think, is that you hit the nail on the head, which is it took you 2 to 3 months to identify that person. And I think that's where most of us would fall down, is we would too quickly settle on the people that we stumble across in a Google search or asking around or asking our friends or looking at podcasts and things like that, without really, really, really diving in and doing the research to deeply understand, is this the person that I want to be? Like, if it's not the person that I want to be, then let's move on and find the person who's at that level of success where I want to be that person. It's that's one of the interesting things about hiring a coach that I've always been fascinated with, is the idea of hiring a coach that is really good at their one thing, but doesn't have the life that you want. You're going to get advice on how to be good for that one thing, but it's not necessarily going to apply and build you the life that you want. If you can, I think it's much better to find a coach or find a mentor or a hero who not only has the business that you want, but also has the lifestyle that we want, essentially has their, they are the person that we want to be, not just that they have a skill set that we want to emulate. Nothing wrong with having a great skill set, but I would rather find that person that has that skill set and is the person that I want to be.
Matt, absolutely, and that's why that's the first thing. Try and describe, who do you want to become. That's the number one thing. And I'll tell you why. Is because if you can find somebody who's done that and you haven't done that, they've gone through a lot of hardship, a lot of pain, a lot of stuff. And they can help you deal with your emotional pain to get to the next level, or how do you get out of that, or what risks should you take, what risks should you not take, those kind of things. So we are just touching on this stuff right now, and but this is massive, Matt. This is massive, 100%. And we're going to talk more on this, man.
Well, so we've got 2 more steps. So we've got,
2 more steps. And
so we've established the relationship of some kind, right? All right. So what's the next step?
So number 5, okay, and this is more important than we will ever realize. And limit associations with some people. Limit association with some people, because every time you say yes to spending time with them, you say no to spending time with the people you should be. Every time we say, yes, I'll go to that social event, yes, I'll go to those things, I'm saying no to the time I could be in researching or spending time with the person that I need to be. It may be your family you've got to give up, some of them. And it might be stop meeting with your cousin, stop meeting with that person who's just pulling you down, or can only celebrate in your failures, because some people only celebrate one's failures. So any negative thinking, you might have to, I'm saying limit associations. I'm not saying stop it. because like family, we don't really stop, but we've got to limit some of the associations. And even there might have been a friend of yours for 35 years, and sometimes they just want to stay on that level. I didn't say cut the relationship at that time, just limit the association. This is the big one. This is the hardest one because most people think it's either you have it or you don't have it. I either cut the relationship or I have it. No, I'm not saying cutting with some relationships. You've got to just limit the associations with them. And, I was, somebody recently said to me, Kurt, I can't believe you just said no to them. Because I was having a barbecue at my place and somebody, they were from out of town, they were from the UK, and they kind of just wanted to come, and I've known them for a long time, but it was no, I had to say no, and somebody said, you just say no. I said yeah, and there are other new people that come in my life, and I might say yes to them. So and you can know someone for 35 years, and then they kind of and I just say no, and I'm learning that because I believe you and I, we are raised to say more yeses. So limiting. We can go into number 6 now if you want to.
Yeah, let's do it.
Actually, first of all, number 5, make a list of those people. You need to limit them. Make a list of those people. Yeah. We actually got to make a list of them, right? Take some time and go through all the relationships and who's helping you, who's not helping you. Make a list of them and say list 3 people. Start off with 3 people. And the last step, number 6, is very similar to number 5. Disassociate yourself with some relationships. You've got to end some relationships because it's not going to take you to what you can, because we become like the people we hang out with. So some of them you've got to actually stop. There's some relationships, and this is the difficult one. Number 6 is the most difficult one, is to stop some relationships. And Matt, I've had to do that in this last year in a big way, very uncomfortable. But I had to be honest with some people, and not nice. But if we're serious about upgrading our relationships, these are the 6 steps. This is what you've got to do. But there's a lot more hows in this. A lot more hows in this. How do you really do it?
Yeah, and I 100% agree. I think the number 5 point is really good because that's one of the hardest things I think to do is to limit without disassociating. And because I think most of us think in black or white terms, and it's definitely not. But I think there is a difference. There are some people that just simply don't serve us, and it's okay to completely disassociate. And I've had to do that. They're one of my good friends. Had some addiction issues, and so his life is just not conducive to him going after it essentially, and attempting to even be a successful person. He needs to get those things taken care of so that they're not a roadblock in his life anymore. So when you're dealing with situations like when someone that you used to spend a lot of time with just is not serving you anymore, and sometimes they're even not even serving themselves. It's not even that they don't want to get to the next level. They might be actively hurting themselves. That's tough to see, and it's tough to follow through and disassociate. But a lot of times, not only is it better for us, it might even be better for them. But at the very least, we have to do what's right for us. So I 100% agree. And I love the 6 steps, and I hope people take action on it. I know there's a bunch of other how-tos and tactics on how to implement and things like that. So how do people get in touch with you and learn more about you and where to connect and all that good stuff so they can potentially get into your world and either make you one of the people they're modeling or learn the 6-step system?
Oh, I absolutely love it, Matt. So basically, there are a few ways, but perhaps the best way is, if you are a real estate agent with a team mentality, you're building a team, or you're a broker owner, perhaps I'm going to ask you to text something that I know exactly, what you want. That's a lot easier because I get so many texts, whatever. And that is at, 31996. 31996. Let me make sure on that number, actually. Because I've just changed the format a little bit, the way I've been doing things. It's 31996.
Okay.
And if you're a broker or agent, and just text the word MER. MER. Okay. That's for My Epoch Recruiting. MER. MER. And if you want to know, more about, say, just personal life, whatever, text the same number, 31996, and just text in there 99 for 99. Just the number 99 for 99. Okay. That's it. Cool. And that's the best way to get hold of me. And then I'll know exactly, what kind of discussion you want, and we can get on a call. I'm happy to get on any call with anybody, Matt. I do have a limited time, and there's different slots that I'll help people to get in. But this life is about touching other people's lives. If we can help enough other people get to where they want to be, we can have anything that we want to have in life.
Love it. 100% agree. All right. And then for the podcast, so if you guys are listening, watching, whatever the case is, make sure to subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher or Apple Podcasts, depending on your device. If you like the video versions, you can get them on YouTube, or you can go right to theleveluppodcast.com. And then if you are watching or listening, or if you get the emails from us, if you're ever curious about where Greg Harrelson gets his data, there's actually a link right around this video or in the emails that you'll receive from us where you can check that out and see exactly what he's doing, where he gets his data from in his for his teams in the Myrtle Beach area, because I know a lot of people, like Greg, gets a ton of questions about that. So guys, go check that out. With that being said, Kurt, I appreciate your time. Everybody that's listening and watching, thank you so much, and we'll see everyone on the next episode.